Has a fictional world ever had a stock market equivalent? Has there ever been like a fantasy book or something that has...
Discworld was all in on that shit.
Okay, I just started Discworld.
Very funny.
I love Discworld, but I'm reading the second book right now. I have 50 books to go.
The first 2 books, exponentially worse than the rest of Discworld.
I know that's what Terry Pratchett said.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying the first 2 books a lot, so...
I didn't even know that he said that, but like just going back and reading through Discworld, it's like the first 2 books really just introduce you to the world and kind of do it in a slapdash way.
But I love Rincewind. He's hilarious.
Rincewind cool, and he shows up in other adventures, like sorcery, and other shit that Rincewind is in. Fucking...
The one about the library, I think is he in that one?
All the ones with Rincewind usually tie into the library.
Yeah, well, not having read any other books yet, the chaotic magic energy going on in the first 2 books is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. I've never read any.
You really need to read Guards. That's like the best.
Yeah,
Dan, you would love Guards.
Yeah, that's like Sam Vimes or whatever.
The captain who's drunk all the time.
I want to read all the little arcs. I want to do the Guard Watch. I want to do the Death series. I want to do the Witches.
The Witches are a great series. Witches Abroad is a fantastic book. Lords and Ladies is great as well. I recently started re-listening to them like in the car. Just with a girlfriend and I were driving up and down for like a trip one weekend, and she really liked him too.
Anyone notable read the audiobook?
Mark Wahlberg. Just a few niche. Yeah, Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, he does the reading.
He does little raps at the end.
Apart from him, Jeff Bridges and Tom Cruise, you don't get any notables who are interested in Discord.
Some no names.
Scientologists don't fuck with Terry Pratchett. They don't like the turtle shit.
Explicitly.
Oh. We're going to peel back the curtain on the Terry Pratchett Scientology sex cult conspiracy this episode, boys.
Sex conspiracy at the heart of Discworld.
Don't cancel Terry Pratchett.
No, we're the opposite of canceling Terry Pratchett.
He's fucking to bring down the Scientologists.
Yeah, he is.
We're canceling Scientology.
He's a deep state plan.
He's Q for Scientology.
Precisely.
Yeah, it's like how they think Robert Kennedy is still alive in the form of this random guy.
He's an anti-vaxxer.
My version of Q thinks that Terry Pratchett is still alive, and it's just some rando with a white beard. He shows up at conventions and stuff.
Really, I'm not the chosen one.
There is a Kennedy, I don't know, it's his great-grandson or something, but he's an anti-vaxxer, and he started tweeting all this shit about the COVID vaccine and be like, just do your research, keep an open mind, you never know what's going into these things.
Dude, the Kennedys truly have their finger on the pulse of American.
I hear they put chips and trackers.
Speaking of chips, I'm going to delve a little bit.
Well, listeners, if you're wondering why we're talking about a fictional world with this Discworld discussion, guess what fucking podcast this is?
Seriously, guess, because we don't know.
No, I know. I'm coming off a ketamine binge. I have no idea where I am right now.
It's 30-minute worlds. It was a test.
Mm-hmm. Shit. Yeah, I hope you said that out loud in your car and or hotbox closet.
Yeah.
This is 30-Minute Worlds, a podcast where we make up a world in 30 minutes or less or more, usually a bit more. And the way it works is that one person is the lore lad, sort of the executive, sort of the John F. Kennedy of the world building. And then 3 other folks here, Walter, Dan, and Chessman in this case, give a prompt word. So I'm the lore lad right now.
Belvin's the lore lad, and he has to build a world while we eat chips on air.
As in every episode.
Why do you guys both have chips? I don't have chips.
I'm hungry, man. I'm getting my snack on.
Fuck y'all.
Chessman, you could have joined the group chat. We were having a whole chip discussion.
I'm getting some
chips. Overdub y'all's audio.
I'll overdub it with what?
My audio.
No, you
Chessman
won't.
eating chips. He puts it in post.
Yeah, it's too much work.
Belvin, your prompt word is bag.
This motherfucker literally just looked down at what he was holding.
And he's like, there was a bit of physical comedy.
There's a news nadir.
Dan, you better not.
I would never do that to Belvin. I would never ever pick the word tortilla.
Yeah, it's good.
My word is photograph.
Bag, photograph.
See, you said hotbox earlier, and it's really put me in a funk because just this week, we lost the Charleston shoe thieves lost hotbox Sato.
Cut this shit.
He was
Not at all.
incinerated.
No one.
Sorry, he was delaced. It was really tragic. So in his honor, I'm going to say smoke.
Smoke.
Smoke on the
Jesus
chip
Christ,
bag.
Walter.
Well, to be clear for anyone listening, Walter is not coughing for any good reason. Like he didn't.
No,
just,
I am. I have a bit of chip when my windpipe when I laughed at Dan's thing a while back, and it's really fucking me up, dude.
Walt's got the
not-
tortilla virus. That's
yeah,
right.
I do.
He's not blazing doinks. He is
A little
just,
hair of the dog. Gotta fix that problem.
Okay.
Smoke, photograph, bag.
A stumped Belvin.
No, I mean, what if there's some incorporeality to the setting that can be made concrete through photography? That's just something that jumped out at me, like something that's kind of smoky and wispy and miragey. But by the act of photographing or taking some sort of picture, you make it real or clear.
Yeah.
It's kind of like spirit photography, but the spirit becomes real when you take the photo.
What is spirit photography?
It's this concept of like when you take a photo. Have you ever seen like orbs showing up in like videos?
I've heard of that phenomenon. People saying like, "Oh, I took a photograph of these orbs," mean that there's a little spirit hanging around, right?
Oh, I've
Right,
heard that before
that's
with
basically
like
what it is.
with like the rods that people say, like the weird ass cryptids that show up in pictures.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things that show up in photographs, like, and then fake photographs where there's like a whole human face that's a ghost that's there, but
That's pretty scary. I don't know. Sounds real.
What if you can travel into different forms of matter, like different dimensions, something like that, with a camera obscura?
Interesting. So you take a photo of a doorway or an aperture, and then you were able to travel through it as though it were someplace else. Or what's your concrete thinking on that?
Oh, that's the basic concept.
That's it. I nailed it.
that's pretty cool.
And I say camera obscura just to keep the technology level low, because you can do a camera obscura if you're just an Italian Renaissance dude.
What is camera obscura? Is that
it's
the
like
thing
a
where they
tech-
drape the cloth over the guy taking the photo?
No. Chessman, you could probably explain better than I could. I mean, basically, as I understand
Yeah.
it, it's like a trick of lighting and perspective, and like you just set something up very particularly, like near a corridor or something.
All it is if you have a pinpoint a hole and you put light through it, it kind of works like your pupil. It lets light in and it projects like an inverted image of the light into like a dark room or inside a little container,
A bag, perhaps.
a bag, like sort of like a photography like a shroud that people put over their heads.
Okay.
Yeah. Instead of being a flat Earth, it's a bag Earth.
What if you could take a camera obscura photo, put it in a magic bag, and then carry the bag with you, and then unleash that image somewhere else?
That I'm starting to get confused. I'm consciously holding back on the bag element.
I'm really
I'm waiting for a place where it makes sense and doesn't sound stupid, and I'm sure that will arrive.
So there's no shame in admitting that.
and you put it in a bag.
It's all the doinks. So this concept of like maybe there's a land called the Smoke, where everything is like kind of wispy and incorporeal, sort of spirit world-ish.
Liminal space.
Liminal space, and you can enter to it through camera obscura.
Can you travel to other worlds with this, or is the Smoke like a gateway alone? Like it's kind of where everything is like bridged together and like the ether, or is it like a physical place that exists that you could
It's
travel
interesting
to?
if the Smoke is the bridge world. If we're talking about different dimensions, the Smoke is the bridge world, and it's like a Pokemon Snap situation where you have to take photographs of like different entryways into different worlds.
That's cool. Your document, it's like fucking Mario and his castle jumping, or Bowser's castle jumping into the fucking
Kind of,
paintings.
yeah.
Right, but you make the paintings.
But if portals are this easy to create, then everyone's jumping between worlds all the time, right?
Maybe there's only one camera.
Well, so camera
That's an
obscura,
element.
that's something that was figured out by people who were, the scientists of their age, and working with artists too, who like were interested in that sort of technology. So let's say like Renaissance Italy, but not Renaissance Italy.
Okay.
Not like the specific cultural markers, but that level of like things are kind of exploding in terms of
A
technology.
Da Vincian age.
Da
Yeah.
Vincian age,
Okay.
yes. And they have figured out that the first camera obscura was an entryway into the smoke.
Right.
And now the new age of exploration is through the smoke.
Oh, that's cool. Like the patrons that fund these inventor geniuses pay for exploration parties to go into the smoke and go to new places, document what they see, and bring it back. So instead of like sailing west to India to get spices, you go through the smoke to bring back like trade goods and shit like that.
Yeah, and they could call it. The Italian word for smoke is Il Fumo, which sounds, if we wanted to kind of lean into the Da Vincian age, or not.
That's usually where you say something stupid, Walt, but you actually suggested something. Very nice. A little turn of phrase.
Okay, enter the El Fumo. So these other realms, do y'all have any thoughts on what these dimensions are like?
They aren't like Earth, right? They're
It
pretty
could
different.
be like it's their Earth, but different. Like the topography is the same, but like it's totally foreign.
Yeah, I like the idea of they're all like you can travel through the smoke and maybe you get to an Earth that's like similar to our Earth, and maybe you get to this weird liminal space that like is just repeating rooms and there's like a monster in it or something. I had an idea for bag. We were thinking probably bag like the physical object, which I don't think is going to work. The verb bag could mean like killing or catching an animal. So
Oh yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the dimensions through the El Fumo could be like a green world where everything is primeval and there are no humans,
Sure.
just like
That's
lots
the
of
first
wildlife.
one you would. Yep. You would go with that.
Well, that's
cool.
a ripoff of actually a Warcraft concept.
One of the other Belvin dimensions
Dream.
that could exist.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking that you would go to this smoke, go through the smoke dimension to one of these bizarre spaces where there was like a dangerous creature there or something, and that you would bag it as sort of like a curiosity or maybe a scientific study.
Yeah, I like that. And maybe there are, in addition to primeval places, there are also like estuarian spaces that kind of defy human geometry, or places that are more dangerous and harder to settle.
Well, that's such an interesting concept of like a place where reality works differently. Like maybe like gravity works differently, or like something can balance that wouldn't be able to balance, like just impossible geometry like that. And you take it back and it still works that way.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah.
That's really neat. Yeah.
So the technology war isn't just like finding interesting new things. It's finding things that would be impossible to exist that you can then leverage.
Right. The cameras themselves are like, it's a sort of chicken and egg thing. Like maybe this doesn't make sense, but the camera themselves has some of these properties. In order to actually work it by refracting the light, it turns it real or something like
What
that.
if, and I'm just spitballing here, but what if there was a way to take the camera structure as it exists in this setting, and like people could use it as a weapon too. Like if you were to deploy it and take a picture of someone, you could fling them into an unknown place and they'd have no real way to get out
No, that'd be
if
cool.
they didn't have their camera.
Throw somebody into a dimension where like people aren't actually separated into different like forms of matter. Like everything just amalgamates together.
There could be like just dimensions in there where light doesn't work and you can't travel back. like with your camera.
It doesn't produce a flash.
Oh yeah, that's like the dead end.
Well, there's
that's the
no
danger.
image to
yeah.
capture. Like,
Yeah.
it's like if you wind up there, you are screwed, basically.
Oh yeah, or a mirror world. Like you take a picture of it and it snaps back at you, and you're just kind of like
And then you're
recursed.
like it
into
just
this.
bounces back and forth, and you're
Yeah.
trapped forever.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
shit.
Sfumato, it's called.
Yeah, so I guess there would be some realms that are like game over realms. And then, like Walter said, there would be some people who get like exiled or hit with it, and they're kind of in Siberia, except Siberia is the crazy dimension, and they're like
Yeah.
little pockets of people. They're just hanging out and trying to survive.
Sfumato.
Fumato.
Which means like dark or shade, I think. It's also
say
a Renaissance style of painting.
Say Fumato?
Sfumato.
Made of
Sfumato.
Fumato.
It would be very
We'll cut out
funny.
this whole bit.
I'm only thinking of it because of the Italian thing, but if they stumbled onto the plane of elemental Goodfellas with this fucking camera,
Sfumato.
they're like, I hear they got some business over in this fucking camera
So what
world.
are they fucking bringing back, right?
So, like, say they bring back
Strange creatures, certainly.
strange creatures. They could bring back like a fulcrum that can like infinitely leverage.
Oh, yeah.
I think there would be some like reality breaking artifacts that would kind of define the realm. Like an engineer would have access to a fulcrum like that, and you'd be able to do insane things and as he builds.
And I like the idea of leaning into the like weird inventor angle because they're sort of who are spearheading. Like they're not paying necessarily for these like things to be created, but they're the ones who can guide people. So it could be like a dimension that has like, I don't know, like rocks that repel gravity or something like that, and they can use it to make like floating carriages and shit like that. But I think that makes sense. Stuff that can modify stuff on the home plane would be like high priority.
Yeah. No, I like that.
The sources of power, obviously, are an easy... we kind of basically been thinking about sources of power, like a fulcrum that has infinite leverage, a source of like suspending something.
Yeah.
And
Anti-gravity.
these pictures, they're not, they're the first pictures ever, right? So they're pretty ephemeral. They're pretty temporary. They fade over time, and you would need to continually build new portals. So there's always an element of risk, right?
Do you have to take a camera with you, like through the portal to
I
get
had
back?
always assumed that to get back, you also needed a camera.
Yeah.
To take to jump between the worlds, between the smoke.
The mechanism of this is like, is it that you take a picture of something and then you can travel to it, or is it the act of taking the picture that lets you
in my head is
move?
the act of taking the picture.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the act of taking it.
What I was thinking originally when we were talking about it was you take a picture of the door and it's a physical door, and then you open it and maybe there's more smoke behind the door and you have to take another picture. Even you're making this smoke space real.
It could be when you look at the picture. Like you take the picture, you look at it, you see this weird alternate reality, and you look up and you're there.
Oh.
Kind of like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
if you took this picture and you showed it to somebody, would they go there?
I think we need to establish if these are printed out, right? Or if they're actual copies of things that are hard and can be torn apart, or if they're just images that you see projected upside down.
let's say that the technology is that there's some sort of combination of ink and textile that the image through the pinhole like is burned in.
That would make taking a picture a fairly intensive process too. It would take several minutes, if not like an hour, to make one, right? Because there's some like, you leave your camera to take it still, right?
It'll take a few minutes. Yeah, like the old daguerreotypes, people had to stand there for like a few seconds, maybe up to a minute.
Yeah, so let's say it takes a minute and that it doesn't last forever. So that's why people don't just have like racks of different photographs they can use as portals.
That, and if you have too many fucking portals in your domicile, like humans need to travel using cameras, right, to get in and out. But there are certain things, rumored things, that lie deep within El Fumo, near like the dark heart of Sfumato, as it's called, that can rumoredly travel without the use of a camera. and they've found that something else is in the smoke with them. It's humanity. Right?
Okay.
So there could be the potential for like mysterious creatures that also kind of can come at humanity through the smoke. Now that they've discovered we know how to access it.
Basically,
Right.
we've opened a gate that we can't really close, and it's inviting just.
We're opening thousands of gates every day, just fucking around.
So to circle like in on this just a little bit, just I want to make sure I have it straight in my head. It's basically we have here a setting with it was like an early sort of Renaissance level of tech, and some guy invented a camera that can essentially allow for travel to other worlds via this Bifrost smoke mechanism.
And about some woman invented it. Am I right, Dan?
Oh, okay. All right.
Representation.
Representation.
Her name was
Francesca Pictography.
Francesca Chiaroscuro.
Francesca Picciaroni? Is that what you're gonna say?
No. Pictograffini. I don't know. Italians are bullshit.
Francesca Chiaroscuro, a brilliant inventress.
This is sort of a segue from what we were talking about, but can there be a league of like gentlemen, or gentlemen and gentlewomen, basically smoke hunters, like the condottieri, we could call them?
Hell yes. Condottieri.
Is that a reference?
It's an Italian word for mercenary. There were famous mercenary bands in the Italian peninsula. Pike formations and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about bagging and talking about trophies. Of course, there'd be hunters in the smoke who would be compensated.
Mercenary cameramen and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea these condottieri go through a portal and like stake up like an outpost on the other side.
And they would have like doctors and maybe scientists with them, maybe. Like to find like herbs of value or anything that could be like immediately valuable and could be analyzed.
Yeah, reality breaking material.
This is a society where thinkers are very respected, and a regiment could just have its own like philosopher with like
a natural scientist or an alchemist.
Yeah, that'd be interesting because you would have to, like, if you go to a world where reality works differently but mathematically consistently, then there would actually be great value in someone being able to figure that out.
Yeah, in fact, they have a lot of mathematicians and shit who go native and want to stay there. And it's like, you have to go back with it. And it's like, no, my life is here.
Well, I think
that
this would probably trigger a rush, a raise to educate more people for these positions, because mathematicians that's normally not a dangerous occupation. But if mathematicians are expected to go into these dimensions on expeditions and sometimes get eaten by a smoke monster.
Mathematicians, naturalists, doctors, like Walt had said, like geologists. But I mean, anybody that knows anything about anything, basically, if you're going to an alien world.
Right, it's a bit like the Renaissance on steroids, because like all the patronage is still fueling stuff, but there's also this incentive of like needing to replace people.
Yeah.
What if like initially this research was funded by basically the nobility, and Francesca was funded by a noble, and maybe there was some sort of incident not long after we first started moving through this, like a city or something was like not swallowed up, but like there was a lot of damage or something came through, and maybe that's sort of how the condottieri first formed, as like a brotherhood almost.
It'd be cool if there was a city that was just cast into smoke and we don't know what happened really, or maybe like some wide angle lens was involved. But
Yeah,
like,
what if you take a photograph of a city?
Well,
Don't do that, first of all. Yeah, I think it would be really dangerous.
it was and so there are people, there's like a whole subculture of people who are trying to find this lost city because their family is in there, or they're from there and they were just out on the day that the big smoke happened,
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, because it's not just big monsters that come through and smash stuff. It fucks with the way that the world works.
Yeah, it's also things that we have that go over there because the boundaries of reality are so permeable.
What's Italian for architect?
Architector, I have no fucking idea.
My assumption is architectoro or something like that.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if one of the major powers in this world merges to be the architecturo, who has maybe multiple like levers of infinite leverage, or other reality breaking machinery that he uses to like build all sorts of crazy ships and towers, and like he's building a city that shouldn't be possible to build as quickly and as crazily as he does.
Oh, but he has help from the smoke from Il Fumo.
Right, he's having people bring in things from the smoke.
Oh, damn, that's cool. That's cool.
Arquitecto.
Architecto. I like that. The Architecto is one of the powers.
And you know what's cool is like portraiture as an art is still like really popular because it's the only safe way to capture an image of anything. So if you actually want to, you'd have to bring a portraitist with you too on these expeditions to paint the landscape so that you can describe it to other people when they come back. So they're still classically training people, because if you take a photo, it's going to warp you to someplace else and you're going to like leave that area. So you have to classically train portrait makers as well, because their art is incredibly useful still.
Yeah, and I think
at least sketch artists.
You probably sketch it and like take notes of the colors and come back and do the whole painting. But the art scene would be crazy because the inspiration for the artists would be all these alien worlds.
The fucking Hudson River Valley School on steroids, because it's just other dimensions.
Yeah, what if they found this green leaf makes you expand your mind, dude? What if they go to this planet, dude, where there's weed there?
What if the weed could talk?
What if?
What would it say?
This is a weed podcast now.
No, they'd be very inspired.
So we don't even have to flesh out the main world, the normal reality, the base reality that much, because in my head it's like Age of Expansion.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the like things are coming back, and these reality breaking things, these trophies. Like it's sort of like a hub world, a portal world, and that like things from lots of different dimensions are filling it up. People are getting power and prestige.
And it's called Unione. And that's really all we know about it. I mean, it's,
there you go. I mean, any other thoughts on the mainland other than like the powers we set up?
Well, you got to have standard fair scheming princes, that sort of thing going on still.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned like what would happen if you took a photo of a city, right? Like if you took a photo of a city with a big enough camera, I guess, would cast it into smoke. What if someone did that on purpose?
Well, the mechanics of the camera that we set up wouldn't make that inherently happen, but maybe there's a way to make that happen. Like there's a camera that can be made.
We don't know what happened because the city's lost in smoke. So it's hard to tell what disaster occurred there. People speculated probably for a time, someone took a picture of the city, but once we learned more about the art, it turned out that wasn't possible.
It's the kind of thing that like people on the street would discuss, but like a natural philosopher would be like, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't.
Yeah, I guess a reverse camera, because what we're describing, you take a picture, you look at the picture, you look up, you're there. The thing that you aimed the camera at didn't change. You changed. A reverse camera would do the opposite. The picture you take, everything, you wouldn't go anywhere, but everything you take a picture of would
something
switch.
That takes energy and takes an image and turns it into darkness instead of light.
The negativo.
Yeah, the negativo.
It's like the fear that like people who are not used to seeing cameras think that when you take a picture of them, you're stealing their soul.
Well, in this world, that's completely fucking valid fear.
Yeah, cameras do weird things.
Yeah. And this camera might actually do that, like the reverse camera.
So the camera mechanism, as we've described it so far, can only send one person through at a time. Could the fix for that be like this reaches a little bit into the bag? I have.
Everyone looks at the photo.
Finish.
Well, is it the photo, or is it like, because we had established that you just take the picture and that takes you there, but like you have to wear the thing, right? Like
I had always thought.
Well, what my thought was that if it could be just large as fuck, and that could be the bag, and that whatever's inside of it goes with you to the other dimension.
I kind of like that idea. It's an elegant solution to this problem that we have of whether the pictures are physical or not. Which I'm going to say doesn't matter as long as you're taking a picture and everyone's in the bag.
This would make it a lot faster to travel, because if instead of having to set up a camera and burn the image into something, and it takes like maybe an hour, maybe longer to get this image to set, and then you look at it. That's like a permanent portal. But maybe you don't want to make a permanent portal because you don't know if it's dangerous or not. You don't have that much time because you're trying to make multiple jumps, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You just get everybody together and they just look at the image with their eyes, and that takes them in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that too. These bags are kind of like these big tents you would have to set up around the camera to make sure the light was right and shit, because they're very finicky still.
Yeah. And like aesthetically that could work because it could be like ornamentation and stuff like that too.
Mm-hmm. And you don't need a lot of staff on these expeditions because if you do it right, you're back by lunchtime, and you can just pop back and forth into reality as you see fit.
Well,
and if it goes wrong, you don't want to lose a lot of people.
I mean, I think it might be more interesting if there's some sort of like each time you do it, there's some chance of something going wrong. So like maybe the act of doing it attracts the monsters they all were talking about that roam the smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the flash draws in unwanted attention.
You know what would be neat is if it took you to the same dimension, but it had no real regard for place. So like you wind up in another part on Earth that's not necessarily the place you left from, right? So there's an added element of uncertainty there too.
Could be. I like the idea of the topography of these different dimensions, like in lots of ways mirroring or reflecting the world.
Okay.
So
I think that's a cooler idea.
it's like all these different things layered on one another. Yeah.
It opens you up to like this. You take a picture of the smoke door in your house. You end up still in your house, but it's wrong.
I just thought of another kind of guy.
Yeah.
Twins. These brothers who are both nobles.
Wow, the concept of twins, that's crazy, dude.
What if they're
Tell
twins?
me about that.
In this world, they're twins.
Tell me about that.
Who are both collectors, and they're both trying to be the most prolific collector of trophies of these alien creatures and forms.
I like that.
They both have towers and museums of insane eclectic.
Two rival twin dukes. Yeah.
Are they really twins, or is one of them
a mirror image?
A mirror image, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're winking at the camera, listeners.
No, what if one of the dimensions is like the Star Trek mirror dimension kind of thing, where there's like evil versions
Everyone
of
has a goatee.
Fuck, no,
Everyone has a goatee.
that's going to make things very complicated.
It would be pretty funny if a different group of travelers came into like the home dimension of this planet via a camera. They're like, oh wow, this place is fucking wild. No?
Yeah, it stands to reason that like not all these dimensions would like not have people who form something similar.
Yeah, it'd be cool is like it's implied that these people aren't the first people to discover a way to travel through the dimensions. In fact, maybe in a lot of the dimensions, they find evidence of people living there, or maybe scattered tribes of people who've lived there for thousands of years and who've forgotten how they came there in the first place.
Yeah, I like that.
Setting's cool as shit.
That's cool. Lots of possibilities. I like setting stuff. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of like I've been watching a lot of Stargate, and like if you want to tell a story in this space, you can tell a lot of stories because there's a literal portal to another world that can go anywhere. But
Much like this podcast.
yeah, ooh.
Yeah, it's almost a meta world, and that it's like a portal to different worlds, but not quite. It's like these dimensions are layered on top of the same realm, and
it's less like it seems like we've arrived less at like alien planet like Pandora or whatever, and more at like realms where reality works a little bit different, or a lot
like radically different. I think.
Yeah.
Which is kind of more interesting than just the bog standard like multiverse. I think.
No, I agree. I agree. Instead of a multiverse, it's kind of like, do you guys ever read Crazy Cat?
No.
The comic?
Crazy Cat?
Yeah, the comic.
No, I've saw Bill Watterson, the Calvin Hobbes guy, extol its virtues, but I haven't.
Well, I loved Crazy Cat as a kid, and the world of Crazy Cat was just like it's a lot like our world, but everything's very surreal. Like the moon's shaped like a pancake, and like it's like this fucking desert with impossible like mesas and stuff. But there's still like human architecture there. It's kind of like you go to the Crazy Cat world.
Never heard of this before. Is it like a newspaper comic?
I think it was. I had like 6 books of them as a kid. It's very funny. There's a mouse named Ignatz who all he wants to do is throw bricks at Crazy Cat. Like that's his whole passion. Is just throw bricks.
I just Google image searched the comic, and that's like the first thing that comes up is a mouse throwing a brick at this cat.
Yeah. There's Officer Ruff, who's a dog, and who fucking he's incompetent, and he keeps arresting Ignatz, who always has to get out of the jail in some way.
Okay. Well, I'm going to by fiat say that there's a Crazy Cat world where those exact things are there.
And that's the twist that makes the world worse.
my prompt word next week is brick. Thanks for listening.
I'm going to roll
The smoke
for
monster is Ignatz.
I'm going to roll for who's going to be Lorelad.
Well, before we call it, does anybody else have anything else they want to throw into the pot for this one?
Crazy Cat's good. You should read it. You should all.
How much money did you take from this Crazy Cat
the
author?
estate of whatever the guy's name is.
Probably public domain almost at this point.
Yeah, really.
And I would like to add rest in violence, Hotbox Sato. You will be missed.
Yeah. To all our Shoe Thieves fans out there, all 2 people who know
All 0
what
of
that
them.
is.
Okay,
Damn.
roll that die.
It's a 3, and that means I will be the Lorelad next episode.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the Dark Lad.
Okay,
disaster.
listeners, you can just skip to the next one.
Yeah, just ignore it.
See you 2
It's
podcasts
all
from now.
bullshit.
Yeah, you're actually helping us more by not listening to that episode.
If you like this episode, you can subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice to get new episodes every Saturday. If you want to, go ahead and write us a review on iTunes and share us with all your world-building friends. It helps us out a lot. Our art is courtesy of the talented and wonderful Shell Tor at Jovial Paradox on Twitter. You can tweet us to @LoreLads or send us spirited hate mail at 30minuteworlds@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy world building.